etiquette lessons and dance rehearsals. And it was kind of crazy.
Bridgerton may look picture perfect, but it wasn't always smooth sailing for the cast. Like any Shonda Rhimes show, the production was meticulous with details and bringing the best possible show to our screens. How did one of the cast members get badly injured by a prop on set? We're taking a look at all the struggles the cast faced during filming, from politics to intimacy to exhausting training.
So please, after you.
How did the cast manage to look like they were plucked right out of the Regency era? Weeks of intensive training in a kind of Bridgerton Bootcamp. Not only did the cast have to speak and behave as if they were living in another era, they also had to elevate everything so they could convincingly portray the high-class characters. Phoebe Dynevor had the most training as Daphne Bridgerton. She found herself quite overwhelmed with the intensive schedule in her 6 weeks of prep prior to filming. While the actress has been in the business for a long time, it didn't prepare her for the strenuous schedule that included horse riding lessons, dance classes, piano lessons, etiquette lessons, and intimacy training. But more on that later.
It was kind of crazy. I think we're all ready to get on the marriage mat now.
The women in the cast had to appear as if they were real debutantes, so they all went through etiquette training and also had to work that much harder to stay in character. What's fascinating is that all of this training was a typical part of people's lives in that era. While the actors didn't have to worry too much about bringing accurate accents to the screen since most of them were from the UK, there was enormous pressure to bring the posh and proper way of speaking to their performances. If any of the actors slipped up and sounded as if they weren't living in the Regency era, the scene had to be done all over again.
That's a cut, good.
If the actors didn't sit, eat, or even walk as their high-class characters, more takes had to be done. It wasn't just the women who had a lot of training, though. Regé-Jean had a 5 a.m. wake-up call, followed by intensive physical training to prepare for the role. And that was just the beginning of his day. He had to be on set and ready to go for a grueling day of filming.
So loads of training, but also there were some of the most fun days that we had on set.
He may have looked incredibly natural on a horse, but this was actually a big struggle for Paige, who didn't have that much experience with horses. The difficulty of safely and confidently riding the horses was of course important, but on top of that, they needed to act at the same time. Of course, some of the most incredible scenes are the dance sequences, for which the entire cast had to rehearse extensively in order to execute the scenes perfectly.
Because it is period dancing, but it's like with a slight darker, sexy twist.
When we think of Bridgerton, one word that definitely comes to mind is steamy. Regé-Jean and Phoebe Dynevor had a whole lot of sensual and intimate scenes that were filmed with a whole crew around them. One of the first scenes they filmed was part of their honeymoon sequence. Extreme intimacy. Fortunately, by this point, Paige and Dynevor had spent so much time together prepping, it was easier for them to perform the steamy scenes because they'd developed a relationship of their own.
We've had an intimacy coach, which I've never had before in a job.
Part of the training involved their intimacy coordinator, who made sure all the intimate scenes were rehearsed and choreographed meticulously to keep filming professional and comfortable.
But I don't think it was that awkward to begin with. We were lucky enough to have a lot of preparation.
With many period dramas on TV, viewers will notice the cast is typically white, making Bridgerton a huge leap from that. Colorblind casting has been a big topic of conversation, though the casting had a lot of thought behind it. It may be a surprise to see Queen Charlotte as a black woman, but the fact is, it is believed that she was actually of African descent. The show does an exemplary job of inclusivity and putting incredible actors of color in leading roles, though there is some difficulty because there is an erasure of the struggles these minority groups actually went through at the time. While there may be a bit of compromising the history, it feels right that today, our TV screens look as diverse as our world.
Yeah, do you know what? People of color existed in this country right back to Roman times.
The clothing worn in Bridgerton is incredible, and the sheer quantity is impressive. The actors collectively wore around 7,500 different costumes in the first season. The scenes on screen of the women having their corsets tightened shows just some of the struggle the cast had with their outfits. Keep in mind, the lavish costumes were also very heavy and therefore hot. Add lights for filming and group dance sequences, the cast often grew extremely warm, and the restrictive clothing didn't leave much room for comfort. While the actors didn't always have to wear corsets as a base, their complex dresses made sitting, walking, and especially horseback riding that much more complicated. The clothing may look beautiful, but it wasn't the most comfortable to wear for hours on end. Actress Nicola Coughlan had one of the more tragic outfit incidents when she tripped as a result of not having enough control or balance in her corset and heels. It not only negatively affected her, as she had a parasol in her hand which wound up injuring the hand of a fellow actor.
I don't know if there's some kind of corsetry acting awards, but I would like one for doing a full jig in this. It wasn't easy.
Showbiz is not easy, and the work it takes to bring a hit like Bridgerton to life is evident. Knowing all the work that went into the intimate scenes, how do you feel about them now? What about knowing the struggle all the actors in corsets faced? Let us know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed, give us a like, and make sure to subscribe to The Things.